Hey, I'm Riley Ross. I first came to know Rex Daugherty when we were juniors in high school. He and I were in Devonna Hill's drama class together, and he was always a performer. Eventually, he and I had roles in the Westmore High School production of The Pajama Game. Rex played Prez, the bumbling president of the Pajama Manufacturing Union, and I played Max, a traveling pajama salesman. I should add that Rex was a lead character, and I merely had a few lines and was told explicitly to not sing in the production. In this episode, we're going to do some hardcore reminiscing. We talk about the first inklings of becoming an actor in elementary school, as well as the power of a great high school English teacher.
And he was like, I knew you were going to be an actor. And I was like, I didn't know. How'd you know? And he's like, because of that scene you did in 10th grade English when you played Puck from Midsummer. You were off book and you had a costume on.
We talk about becoming a working actor in D.C. We talk about family and religion. And then we just sit and wax real hard about the concept of art.
A lot of artists are trying to ask ourselves what the goal and function of art should be right now. Art should be advocacy. Art should speak truth to power. We need to stand up for those who are being persecuted or being oppressed, who are being systematically cut out.
This is Y'all Okay? Howdy, friends and neighbors. Welcome to Y'all Okay, a podcast about the state of Oklahoma and the people connected to it. Got Rex Daugherty up in here today. Rex is an actor in the Washington, D.C. area. He is a actor and director and creative director for Solas Nua, which you'll hear about in the show, and he works with other theater groups and theater companies. I believe he's I think he's quite prolific in the D.C. area. He's actually when I was in D.C. doing the interview the next day, he hooked me up with an opportunity to go see a wonderful production of Death of a Salesman at Ford's Theater, which was just fantastic. And it was like a multiracial cast. And, you kind of thought about it at first, but then the actors were so good and you got so into the characters and what they were doing that, that wall dissolves in your head and you just see them for the family and see them for the characters that they are. And it was really beautifully done. Rex didn't have anything to do with that, but Rex turned me on to it. And I think I'm just sharing my views on the performance of Death of a Salesman because, art means something to Rex, and you will hear that in his voice. So art and acting and the process, that all comes through. And to talk to someone that's passionate about what they do, and they have been passionate about it for, let's just say, their entire life, is just, I don't know, it's so life-giving. So I really hope you enjoy the episode. I had a great time talking to Rex. This was actually recorded towards the end of September when I was in D.C. doing some work. A quick note about the recording. We recorded it in a very large room on the 14th floor of the Keybridge Marriott in Roslyn, Virginia. Shout out to the Marriott brands. And they must have been preparing for a banquet or something, because you'll hear a couple of employees in the background catching up and clanging glasses and silverware. And you'll also hear some airplanes fly overhead because Washington Reagan is really not too far from the hotel, and the planes got to fly in pretty low. So I have put links in the show notes to Solas Nua and the Rep Stage Theater, so all our Virginia and Maryland listeners can check that out. So look at the show notes. Thanks, Rex. This episode, as always, is brought to you by Al's Bicycles Northwest at 7930 North MacArthur in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Phone number 405-728-7100. Cyclocross is in full swing now that the weather has cooled down a little bit, and there's going to be people preparing for winter riding and gravel grinding and stuff like that. So, whatever your flavor of riding is, check out Al's Bicycles for what you need. Get set up, get your house winterized, get your bike winterized, get it ready to go. Thanks, Al's.
Did you go to OBU?
I did, yeah. So
I can't remember how I knew that. I think it was a liberal arts school. Then they have a good theater program.
They did. I don't know if they still do. The professors that I went there with were really incredible, but they left. A lot of the liberal arts teachers left because I think it got pretty really conservative.
Yeah,
as a lot of the country has.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know what the culture is like now. I don't go back and visit. But yeah, I went to OBU and then I majored in theater, and I've always said you kind of have, if you go to study theater in Oklahoma, you kind of have to pick left or right and go to one of the coasts.
Yeah.
Or I guess Chicago, but I know that there's more theater happening in Oklahoma City now, lyric theater and reduction theater and some really great stuff. But, I don't think I could still make a living out of doing it like I can in D.C.
Right.
So I've been here 10 years and love D.C.
Yeah.
And it's this is a fun fact. That not many people know. D.C. is the second largest theater city in the United States.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
It passed Chicago, productions per year, about almost about the time I moved here, 8-9 years ago. So it was just perfect for me, getting here at the cusp of that. And there's so much opportunity. There's so much burgeoning, emerging theater.
Yeah.
So it's been a wild ride.
That's cool.
Yeah. So
now,
that's what I do full time.
You were talking beforehand. So in between OBU and DC, you were actually spent some time in New York.
Yeah, upstate actually. I worked for a theater company for a year in Auburn, which is near Syracuse.
Okay.
And it was too cold.
Yeah.
So from this Oklahoma boy to go up there, and it just started snowing in October and didn't stop till May. I was like, this is ridiculous.
That's not cool at all.
Not cool. It's beautiful in the spring and the summer, but I was like, nope, we're not doing this again.
Yeah.
So I bounced around. Where else did I go? I lived in Virginia at another theater company for a year, and then that led to moving to DC. So it was just 2 years after school that I ended up being here.
Yeah.
But was doing theater the whole time. But there's a huge. We call it regional theater. Basically, anything that's not New York City is called regional theater.
Yeah.
So I was doing that in New York. I did some shows in Chicago. I did Virginia, and then landed here. And have pretty much. I've branched out and done a little bit of outside DC work every once in a while, but this has always been my home base.
Yeah. So do you ever do what I guess they call a touring company or anything like that?
I toured in New York,
Okay.
And then I did a local tour here where we left every day from DC.
Oh yeah.
And I don't want to do that again.
Okay.
When you're changing in school bathrooms and
Oh right.
We did this show. It was called Pyramid Man.
Pyramid Man.
Yes, and there was a new food pyramid. This is before My Plate, which is Michelle Obama
right.
did a lot of Let's Move, and I think My Plate was the thing that replaced the food pyramid.
Right, and it kind of went back to never mind. Yeah.
But before My Plate, there was this brief. Trying to revitalize the food pyramid.
Right.
And this company wrote a show, or not a theater company, but the health food industry wrote a play, and it was terrible. It was absolutely the worst play ever written.
Okay.
But they gave this company that I've worked with in town a lot of money to do the show. So it was like a superhero show. And I was Pyramid Man, who was here to educate kids about food. So we toured all these these like low-income schools in like DC, and we're never doing this.
And they loved it. The kids probably loved it.
Freaking went wild.
Yeah.
But the worst. There was a huge plot hole in this script. So there was a bad guy called the Slow Sloth, and he was like trying to get kids to just sit around and be lazy.
He just ate sugar and trans fat and stuff like that.
Yeah. And
oh my gosh.
he had a freeze ray, so he could shoot you with the freeze ray and you had to be frozen. But it was never really explained that it was a freeze ray in the actual script. And so there were no lines that said, this is a freeze ray if you get shot with it.
Yeah. No exposition.
No exposition of the freeze ray. But there was a point in the play, essentially the evil villain confessing his whole plot, where Pyramid Man had to be frozen so that the evil villain could like say, I tricked you all along, and he like gives his backstory in like a 2-minute monologue where Pyramid Man had to be like frozen and listen to it. And all of the kids who had no idea why I was frozen would just be yelling. And they'd be like, he's right behind you! Move! You've got to stop it! Like 400 kids shouting for Pyramid Man to move. And I'm like, I can't move! I have to be frozen! And no one could hear me because there's no way you can shout over 400 kids.
Oh my gosh.
So no one ever heard the exposition story from the bad guy because hundreds of kids were yelling. And he would just start making up stuff, like, just to make us laugh. In fact, he would cuss. He would be like, it doesn't matter what that... How are you in language on the...
It's an explicit show, and I've been waiting for a guest to just drop some bombs.
So he would, like, yell in our faces, it doesn't matter what the fuck I say, because none of these stupid fucking kids can hear us. And like we're like trying to keep it together, and no one can hear him, and it was amazing. So,
oh my gosh!
And then I was like, "Yep, I'm not going to tour again." Like, if Broadway calls, that's a different situation. But that was a rough circumstance.
And so, for like those listeners that are wondering what came out of that, we have more obese children than we've ever had before.
That's right. I know Oklahoma really struggles with that.
We do.
So maybe they should have had Pyramid Man tour to their state.
Maybe so.
But now it's obsolete because there's my plate. Like none of it mattered. Also, Pyramid Man believed that French fries were a vegetable. They were on his vegetable chart, and I'm like, this is not good.
But you know,
Pyramid Man.
But now, wasn't that the same setup that declared pizza counted towards one vegetable because it had pasta sauce on
it? I mean, sometimes you make things work.
Do you know, speaking of vegetables, and Oklahoma and obesity, so this is actually...
Give me some fried okra talk.
Do you know what the state vegetable is of Oklahoma? This is a trick question, and it's not going to surprise you, I don't think, but the state vegetable of Oklahoma.
State vegetable. Yeah. I'm going to say mashed potatoes.
No, close. It's actually produce. It's watermelon.
Oh.
Someone probably somewhere technically, like botanically, watermelon is a berry.
Because it's got the seeds on the inside.
Yeah, I think. I don't know. Right. I don't know why it's a berry, probably because it's got a skin. Because berries actually botanically aren't berries, but they're commonly considered. Anyway, no, watermelon's straight up fruit. Yeah. No matter how you slice it.
And you can slice it a few ways.
A few different ways. Look it up on YouTube.
Very eloquently.
Yeah. But you can even ball it if you want to.
A little ice cream scoop.
Yeah. It's a state vegetable technique. Probably some state representative from Rush Springs advocated that. I don't know. I don't know. But it's there. So,
I know.
You were talking about making a living in... I know a guy that he basically, like, he's trying to make his living in Oklahoma City. So he works for OKC Improv, and he works for a church, like, doing their music there. And he's got, like, a third job. Right. So he's making it work, but he's hustling his... He's got to hustle his butt off to make it happen.
The hustle. I call it selling watches. Like, watches? Anyone got watches?
Yeah.
No, the hustle's real. I mean, the hustle's true. I mean, he's an artist. Oh, you said he works with the improv company. I mean, almost anywhere you have to have another source of income. Like, even like the top actors in DC, a lot of them are professors. Or,
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I run a company. I'm the artistic director of the theater for Solus Nua, which means new light in Irish.
Yeah, it's an Irish specific, like it's Irish art.
It's Irish art, and it's all contemporary Irish art.
Okay.
So we're not going to do like W.B. Yeats or even Samuel Beckett or Joyce. Yeah, like that's everyone does that.
Yeah.
So we do like the new stuff. So one of the artists that we produced a lot of is Inda Walsh. Inda is, do you know the musical Once?
Yeah, sure.
So he wrote the book for that and won all the Tonys and stuff like that. So part of my hustle is Solus Nua. I'm part-time with that. I like part-time freelance, act and direct. I also teach. You can almost see the school where I teach at. It's in Georgetown. There's it's called the National Conservatory of Dramatic Arts.
Okay.
Tiny acting school. So that off and on, and I do like private coaching and lessons and stuff.
Wow, that's awesome.
So I get the hustle. I've even like at various times I've had a bunch of weird jobs. Like I've driven for Lyft. I've toured crazy children's plays in schools. So, but most of it's generally been based in the theater.
Yeah.
So just because there's a lot more of it in town.
I would consider you, and I think a lot of people, at least in high school and probably even now, would consider you a funny guy. But you do probably focus more on drama. As an actor?
No, I mean... am I getting too far away?
No, you're good. Your sound is more...
Does this help?
Yeah, that's perfect.
So I mean, as a freelancer, you take the job you get cast in, right? So, I mean, I do get cast in as a lot of funny guys, so I still get cast as humorous roles a lot. The show I'm in right now is kind of hard to define as I guess it's technically a comedy, but it's more of like a social observance comedy. It's called The Heidi Chronicles, which is written by Wendy Wasserstein. She wrote it in 88, 89, and it won the Pulitzer.
Wasserstein doesn't sound like an Irish name.
No. Oh yeah, this is not with Solus Nua. This is with Rep Stage.
Okay.
So she was the first woman to win a Tony for writing a show. And I think she was the first woman to win the Tony and the Pulitzer. I can't remember, but it's about the women's liberation movement through the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Okay.
So through the baby boom generation, actually. And then it's been a really interesting time to like remount that show because although it was written in '89, it's still ahead of its time with gender roles. And I mean, there's a scene in Act 2 where Heidi, the main character, is invited onto an interview, like a talk show, and the two guys just like interrupt her and talk all over the whole time, and it's like so socially awkward.
Yeah.
And then there's a line right after the show ends, and Heidi says to my character, like, I couldn't, like, how could I say anything? You guys were so eager to say it for me. And I say, it's not my fault you didn't say anything. And the audience just groans collectively. It's like, I better find the back entrance on the way out because I'm going to get beat up. But now it's like a really smart show, and it's very funny, but it's also has a nice impact. All that to say, I get cast as lots of stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah,
the 80s butthole.
The 80s butthole. Yeah.
Wow.
So I mean, I like to find humor in everything I can.
Yeah.
I mean, like if I played Richard III actually in Oakland City a few years ago.
Oh yeah.
And I think it's a very funny role, and maybe that's my own lens. But there's a lot of humor to be found in Shakespeare's great tragedians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tragedy plus time equals comedy. So
exactly. 400 years later, it's a riot.
Still, the Bard. He's still hilarious.
Yeah, he knew his audience.
So talk to me about the Solus Nua is that the show that you're working on now that's about to start? Or what are you working on now that's going to like start tomorrow?
Yeah, so that's Heidi Chronicles.
Okay.
This is our closing weekend. We run Thursday through Sunday this weekend. It must close on Sunday. And then I have a few weeks off until I start rehearsals for Solus Nua.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, the Heidi Chronicles is the one I was telling you about, the women's liberation movement. And tickets are still available.
Okay.
So, yeah.
We've actually...
Rep Stage is the theater company. It's up in Columbia, Maryland. So it's a little bit of a hike from Arlington, but if people are in the district, it's a little bit easier to get to.
Yeah, we actually remarkably have a few Virginia and D.C. listeners.
Great.
Because of the work that I've done here.
Yeah.
I have people that listen to the show for some reason.
Right.
So I'm trying to put some asses in the seats.
That's right. Butts in seats.
I don't know if actually... I'll probably not be able to get this episode out in time. However,
That's okay.
What I will do...
Rep Stage will still have more shows.
I'll put a post up or something. Make that work on Facebook.
Yeah. Hey, there's no bad publicity.
No. Well...
There is.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, Trump's presidency was run on... His
true.
whole
He
campaign
kinda
was
ran
run
on
on bad publicity, and it worked.
It worked electorally. I don't think it worked in a
got him
popular
elected.
sense.
Let's say that.
Yeah, it's true. Do you has that been a transition for you? First of all, I was expecting to see like a big white F-250.
I thought of that on the way over. A 350.
Was it a 350?
It was a 350.
Oh, okay.
Diesel engine. I was like, oh yeah, Riley and I would like run through the halls to get into my truck.
Yeah,
to
we would like
bust out of school,
bowl over people, little girls trying to get out of what was her name? Miss Carson? No, Anne, the singing teacher.
The singing teacher.
Yeah.
Dawson. Yeah,
That's right.
Because we always parked on the what direction would that have been? The west side, the band parking lot.
Yeah,
because that was the closest to the exit.
Right.
I don't know if Westmore still only has 2 exits, but that's really bad construction.
They have a few. So I mean,
2,000 kids trying for a 25-minute lunch.
And then they've added on to the gym, and so I think it's probably harder to sprint out from drama class or whatever. Or if that all's still there, I'm not really sure.
Maybe a tornado is taking it away.
Maybe so. For those that don't know, Rex and I, look, everybody knows we were in the pajama game. People are still talking about
one of the biggest hits of Oklahoma.
Yeah, the work that we did in the pajama game. I just remember my character was Max. I don't remember any of my lines.
My character was Perez. Arena Stage is doing the pajama game this year.
Oh, are they really?
Yeah. So like they're like right there. They're like a $20 million theater. Like operating annually budget. So
let's see if they're any good.
So I don't know. We had some pretty nice sets.
I know we did, and I did some dancing. I was told specifically from Ms. Dawson because I went to rehearsal one day. And I was singing, and she pointed over to me and friend of the show, Chris Foshi, and she goes, "You two don't sing."
Stop singing.
And Chris was like, "What?" And then he whispered to me, "You made me look terrible."
Oh, Foch, throwing you under the bus.
It might be true.
It was probably,
It's probably true.
You know, you guys are there for pretty faces.
But yeah, well, I can't argue with that. But yeah, is that where you first? This is kind of bleed over into politics discussion. Is that where you first got into acting and stuff? In high school? I
mean, I did it in junior high too. In fact, I did it through my church. I did it like all growing up. I think I was like in first grade when I played like a shepherd boy for the church pageant.
Sure.
And I thought that was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And I remember like bringing my own props. I brought a little sheep lamb doll, and and then like later on, might have been fourth grade, I had a non-speaking role in like a vacation Bible school summer play.
Right on.
But I approached it. I thinking back, I really approached it with an artist's intention. Like, it was this non-speaking role, but I created a language for myself. I brought my own costume and again my own props, and I was like in it, you know, like I loved it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't on my radar of something you could do with your life, but I was like so about it, and like looking back, I go, I know actors now who don't do that much work for their professional production, and so for me to be like a first grader who's like, I'm bringing my own props.
Yeah.
I think now looking back, I think I was a born actor, a made actor, and just always wanted to do this. I just didn't know
Right.
That you could be an actor.
Yeah.
You know, like it's
not something you hear a lot about where we grew up.
No, and like one of my hustle jobs here in DC has been working with elementary schools.
Okay.
And it's a pretty regular thing that a lot of professional actors do, is go in and teach either after school classes with theater or like direct their, you know, fifth grade production of Seussical the Musical or something. And I remember at one point I just kind of stopped and realized, wow, like these are professional actors and directors working with fifth graders. And like, I think in grade school, the only theater we saw was like something the high school might have toured to us.
Right.
You know? So yeah, just the exposure to it, if there isn't that, if you don't see it, you don't realize, oh, I could do this.
Yeah.
So, I also thought, I mean, you know, I grew up going to church, and I also thought I was going to be a minister. Mm-hmm. And I think the church does a good job of like recruiting, but doesn't really, like when you're 12 years old and you decide, I'm going to be a minister when I grow up, people are sort of like, well, that's what you're going to do.
Yeah.
And there's no follow-up later when you're like, to ask kids, like, what did you mean when you were in 5th or 6th grade and you said you would devote your life to God? Like, you don't know what that means.
I know.
Like, so later on, I just kind of realized, you know, I think ministry happens without the walls of a church. It happens wherever you are. And so I do feel like my calling is theater.
Yeah, and what's interesting about that, and I think that's a good realization to have. Like, I think it would be crazy to deny that there's a performative component to like good preaching. Not necessarily pastoring, because pastoral care and preaching being two different things, but like, even if you hate him, you can't not look at Joel Osteen and go, he's a hell of a performer.
Yeah.
He's crushing it up there.
He's knocking it out of the park.
Because
there's something to learn.
Yeah. I don't like him, but he's got something.
But he can deliver a message.
Yeah, exactly right.
It's storytelling, you know, like it's at the end of the day, it's basic storytelling. So, although I guess where I would draw the difference is I look at him and everything seems fake, right?
Oh yeah.
And like the goal of theater is truth. The goal of both should be truth, right? But like you see some of those mega church pastors and they just look like wolves, and you're like, they're, you know, I don't know. I've seen some supercuts too of you're just like, I can't believe anyone falls for this.
I know.
They're like, hello, send me your money. It's like the Church of Ebenezer Scrooge here.
It's an unsettling performance where people actually root for the bad guy. It'd be like giving money to Dwight Yoakam's character in Sling Blade, because he was like the worst of the worst. Whenever I think of a acting performance of a bad guy, I always think of Dwight Yoakam in Sling Blade, because I think he just does a wonderful job and makes me have a visceral feeling of like
quintessential bad guy.
I'm glad what happened to you.
Right. You know what I think of? I think of Joaquin Phoenix in Gladiator.
Oh yeah.
Like he was so unsettlingly a bad guy.
So he does a very good job of it, especially when they bring in a lot of those. For some reason, I'm thinking in my head like Caligula components of like fratricide and
yeah. No one likes a
loving
fratricide.
one's mother. Yeah.
I heard he got like a lot of hate mail.
Because of that?
Yeah, because of his
That's
performance.
a strong performance.
That's a great performance, right?
That's
like,
really,
if I could
really
get some
good.
hate mail,
Yeah.
I'd be thrilled.
Yeah, so if you haven't watched Sling Blade, watch it. Because Dwight Yoakam, who you wouldn't think he's not an actor, right? He's a musician, but he's a hell of an actor, apparently. In 2007 or so, I went to go watch a, you know that building on the northwest side of town that's got like the gold dome on it, and it's got a church, and it's like pretty close to downtown Oklahoma City.
Right.
They had a local production of a just a 2-man show of Tuesdays with Maury.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought it was like kind of lame going into it, but I left like, you know, really feeling emotions about it. And I'm not normally, I mean, I feel emotions, but I'm not normally for stuff like that. You know what I mean? Yeah. But
a funny story of that show. I forget when this was, but it was an Oklahoma City production of Tuesdays with Maury. I don't think it was there. But I forget the name of the company. But I took my grandparents to it, thinking that, and it was. I remember it was a Memorial Day weekend.
My grandma took me.
Right on.
Yeah.
So we went on a Friday night. It was Memorial Day weekend, and I thought, like, this is. I knew what the show was. I'd seen a film of it, and I'd read the play, and so it's like very life affirming.
Yeah.
You know, like, have you lived a worthy life?
Sure.
Have you invested in the people you love? And so I thought, like, this will be a great thing to do with my grandparents. And they were so depressed after the show. And I was, you know, on the way home, I just, you know, Grandma, Grandpa, what'd you think of the show? And they're like, well, we just don't have long to live. Like, they were so, like, depressed. And I was like, no! And then it was that Sunday they went to church with my mom. And I met them for lunch afterwards, and I just asked, you know, how do you think of church? And they said, the pastor gave this most amazing sermon. It was about living a good life and investing in the people you love. And I was like, that was what the play was about. But, like, that was so interesting to me that, like, they couldn't hear the same message in a different medium. And I was like, Grandma, I'm doing this with my life.
Yeah.
So,
do you think, I mean, because they're religious folks, so do you think they've become conditioned?
Yeah, of course. I mean, absolutely. Yeah. I love my grandparents, and they've passed now, but they've.
Oh, so they were right.
They were right. Maury killed me. But I remember my grandma asked me one time, like, when are you going to be a real actor? And this was several years into my career. I was like, well, Grandma, I pay my bills by acting right now. I'm like, I'm a professional actor. And she's like, well, I meant, when are we going to see you? And I was like, well, you mean like in a show? I mean, you could come visit. And she goes, no, in a movie. And I was like, oh, well, you have to keep waiting.
Yeah.
Wait for the Spider-Man reboot.
So they have open casting in D.C. and decide to film there because the taxes are cheaper than...
yeah, not much films here because it is expensive to film here.
Yeah.
Things are filming in Baltimore, though. House of Cards films there.
House of Cards, Veep.
It did, but it's gone back to L.A.
Oh, has it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But watching those shows is just like I know you. It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't go out for a lot of film stuff. I feel like you can only do so many hustles, and being an artistic director is a huge hustle. A freelance director and actor, right? Like, it's like all the hustles I can do.
Yeah.
I'm doing a little bit more music now these days.
Oh, really? Like, how so?
I'm a singer-songwriter. Actually, I have been since high school when I started playing. And I just kept it up, but it was always like I've always written. And then a few years ago, I got to write music for a show. It had the lyrics in it, but I got to write the composition. And then I wrote a few like kids musicals.
Oh yeah.
And those were produced and have like gone on and had several productions.
Oh, that's awesome.
and I was just able to start combining theater and music, and it just scratched that itch, and I was like, yeah, I want to do more music. So I currently have a band, a 2-person band, with a really good friend of mine named Davin Ralston. She's a multi-instrumentalist, but mainly plays the violin.
Oh, okay.
And we did 3 shows in a row together where we both played music in the shows. And then we're like, we need to be a band. So we're called the Magi, which is the name of the 3rd show we did. We asked the playwright, it was like, can we just take this name? Because the play was about 2 people in a band, and they were singer-songwriters, and it was just us in the show.
And they kept giving each other circuitous gifts. That has nothing to do with O. Henry?
No, well, it is.
Okay.
It was like a retelling of it.
Okay.
I mean, it wasn't like a adaptation, but it was sort of like thematically about the Magi, O. Henry's short story. And it was a holiday show.
All right.
So we're like, hey, can we just call ourselves the name of your play? And she was like, yeah, go. So we've played a few places. We played at Iota here in Arlington. We played at the bigger place in Fairfax. I forget the name. But we're done like house concerts and stuff. And we're making an album.
So, like in a studio and
friends like home studio. He's got a like great home setup, but like I'm not going to try to be a touring musician or anything like that. And in fact, I kind of want, if we ever play gigs, just to charge like all of our proceeds will go to charity.
Okay.
I played a gig with a friend of mine who was she's a stand-up comic, and when was it? It was a few months ago, and she sold out this theater and raised in one day like $10,000 for cancer research.
Oh my gosh!
And she's also an actor and a comedian, and I was like, yeah, like I've got my theater as my career. I can use music as like a giving back type of thing. So I want to just we'll pick a charity. It might be different ones, and just donate our music proceeds to that. So,
yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. Do you feel if you don't want to get into this, just say so. Like, since we
can always edit it out.
Exactly. Since we made a couple, political comments here and there, do you feel like your politics have your politics changed since either pursuing this as a profession, or did you feel like they never really jived with you growing up, and that you just kind of came about, or what?
I don't know. Maybe a little of both. I mean, Oklahoma is a very homogenous place, so going to certainly being in the arts, but also just being in a major city with lots of diversity, like changes your perspective on what the rules are and what they should be, and how economics should work for people, how politics should work for all people, not just the things that you happen to believe in. So yeah, they've definitely changed and evolved. I do feel like I'm probably not as liberal as a lot of, like, DC is a very liberal city.
Yes, it is.
I'm probably not as liberal as the left of DC,
sure.
but I mean, I don't vote Republican hardly anymore.
Right. Yeah.
Like, if a candidate came along that was that I'm not writing them off as a party,
right.
But right now I certainly am, because it's pretty rough, I think. But yeah, I don't know what else as far as evolving politics.
What's interesting about that is I've always considered myself. I say always, at least for like the last, for sure, 10 years. I've considered myself like a moderate.
Yeah.
Not only politically, but like philosophically and otherwise. Mm-hmm. And I recently, it was like it was just kind of post-election, and I heard this guy.
Post-election.
Yeah. And I heard this fella from Brooklyn, and he was a gay guy he was a gay reporter. I can't remember what magazine, from Brooklyn. but he had always considered himself like a liberal person. But due to the fact that he was in Brooklyn and he didn't necessarily agree with like the left of what you would probably experience in Williamsburg around the gentrified hipster areas.
Right.
And he had like interviewed Milo Yiannopoulos, and people were like sending him hate mail, like, how could you do this? This is not who we are, blah blah blah, and like, why would you give him a voice, this, that, or the other? And he had considered himself, from that point, he had considered himself a Republican because he had said that they are a more moderate party. And I was listening to his story on NPR, sitting at my house in Oklahoma City, and going, we basically got the same circumstances, but you just flip it.
Yeah.
So like in Oklahoma City, I can sit there and be considered a liberal, whereas if I were to take my same views to Washington or Brooklyn or Berkeley, people would consider me a conservative pretty easily.
Yeah. I mean, context is everything, right?
Yeah. Context and perspective.
Right, yeah. I mean, this past year has, I think, changed everything, and it's changed politics. It's I don't know if you pick up on this in your trips to D.C., but like, Trump is like it's become how you greet people in D.C. It's like, can you believe what he's done? Instead of hello and like instead of, hey, how's it going? It's like, oh my God, did you hear his last press conference? So it's like this, it permeates the culture here in town. It's exhausting. So, a lot of artists are trying to ask ourselves what the goal and function of art should be right now. Art should be advocacy. Art should speak truth to power, and there has to be. We need to stand up for those who are being persecuted or being oppressed, who are being systematically cut out. But there's also. Where is room for entertainment, and where is room for like a delightful farce, and so it's an interesting balance right now of I think the whole entertainment industry is looking at what is the Emmys. I didn't watch them the other night, but I saw a few of the speeches, and they're politically loaded, right?
Very political,
So it's hard not to be political right now, and like the thing that Trump has done is brought, for better or worse, maybe, it just brought a lot of that political fight to everyone. Yeah. Even on Facebook, family members we don't talk to really, or you're arguing with on Facebook, and I'm like, what are we doing?
Yeah, I know.
It's a both exciting and challenging.
It is, and
time as an artist. What
I think is interesting about talking about art is that everybody talks about the Hollywood left or whatever, the Hollywood elites and blah blah blah, and how artists are against Trump, which that's probably true for the vast majority of them. There's plenty of conservative actors and whatever, and they believe the same things about what art should be, but they just kind of interpret it differently because they see it through a slightly different lens. Clint Eastwood probably being one of them. But Scott Baio not included. He's not really an artist. But so in the example of New York City, they had Shakespeare in the Park, and they were doing their production of Julius Caesar, where a guy that looked a hell of a lot like Trump got stabbed by everybody, and everybody was saying that these actors are advocating violence against Trump, which, one, decontextualizes when the play was written and takes it out of that context, which is the inappropriate thing to do. But also, they also don't realize, the people that were putting on that production, they are not the elites. Those are all people, they're doing Shakespeare in the Park. Yeah. They're hustling hard. They've got multiple jobs. They are not the Hollywood elite that are trying to say something. They are
Yeah.
struggling actor.
Not only that, but I mean, in defense of that production, which I didn't see, but the context is key. Like, you have to look at what happens to the people who assassinated Caesar. Mm-hmm. They get hunted down and killed. Like, the whole point of the production, from what I understood from the artistic director, was actually advocating nonviolence, like advocating resolving your disputes in a democratic way, and not, going to the extremes of assassination and like. So like it was really a call to de-escalate tension.
Yeah.
Because by showing you example of, well, here's what happens if you let your base instincts rule.
Yeah.
This guy gets assassinated, and then Brutus and Cassius, who were the cohorts, they ended up being hunted down by Mark Antony, and they are then killed, or one of them kills themselves. Did they both kill themselves? I'm forgetting. Anyway, they're defeated.
Yeah.
Horribly. Like, it's awful. It's a tragedy. So, if anything, Caesar is a sympathetic character in that play.
Yeah.
But we live in sound bites, right? We're like, what? Trump is being killed?
So they didn't even first act or second act that. They just took like a little clip and didn't even bother.
Right.
And that's actually something that we learned. We read through that when we were in high school, I believe. I'm pretty. Yeah, we did, because I remember
in high school.
Well, I remember reading the, the E2 Brute line sticks out in my mind, and I think we read that when we were sophomores. Unless you were in.
We did Midsummer my sophomore year.
Were you in AP English though, or
no,
pre-AP? Oh, okay.
I had Randolph. He was great, and in fact, I saw him years later, and when I was in town for Oklahoma City Dead in 2015, and he was like, "I knew you were going to be an actor," and I was like, "I didn't know. How did you know?" And he's like, "Because of that scene you did in 10th grade English when you played Puck from Midsummer, like." You were off book and you had a costume on. Like everyone else was sort of like reading their scripts and looked like they were like, being punished to be there. And you were like totally in it to win it. And I was like, I am.
And that's really tough because, again, context. Shakespeare is, sometimes it's impenetrable to the 21st century mind in terms of like, what is his style? I mean, he's not as bad as Chaucer.
Right.
But it's still pretty tough.
It's actually still modern English. But there are just, language changes like so quickly, right? Like,
true.
What kids these days with like, they're on fleek and getting tart.
And what shoddy.
And shouty. One of the things I've done is taught Shakespeare in schools, and we often start with a conversation about how language changes. And
that's awesome.
We, one of the things, I did Romeo and Juliet in a women's correctional facility.
Sure.
With like 18-year-olds.
Yeah, of course.
And we started this conversation of language, and somehow the term lemon came up. And
like for a car?
For how I would use it, for a car.
Okay.
Like, don't buy that car, it's a lemon. But they were using it in the terms of a bad boyfriend.
Oh, okay.
Like a bad boyfriend is a lemon.
Yeah.
And you're like, don't worry. Or it was something like that. And, and like, same thing with like the word sick. Like when I grew up, sick meant you were gonna puke, and it became like, oh, that's awesome.
Right.
So like, interesting, like. In one context with the lemon, it still means like something bad.
Yeah.
But like with sick, it was a completely opposite. And that's in 20 years.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Add 400. And what's remarkable actually is that so much of Shakespeare's language is that timeless. Sure.
And the fact that he invented most of it for it. Like,
there's so many words he invented.
In a pickle or whatever.
Lots of phrases.
So if you like... etymology, or not even etymology, but just like that sort of progression. There's this one guy named, I think it's John McWhorter. Whorter. Anyway, he's got 2 books that are really good. One is Our Magnificent Bastard Tongue, and he basically talks about his theories on how modern English came to be, and tracing it from marrying the Gaelic and the Germanic together, especially since you have such a Irish. You're Irish. But
I can say a few things.
So there's that, and how he basically brings us up to speed. Then there is another book that he wrote that I've only read bits and pieces of, but it's called Talking Back, Talking Black, and how Ebonics should be reassessed to show how it's a natural progression of English, and this is how language changes,
right.
And so this is what it's going to look like.
Wow.
Yeah. So pretty good books.
Right
on. So if I'm an actor, or I'm a kid, I'm in high school.
I'm in high school.
I want to be an actor. This is very easy for me to put myself into this situation.
Here I am in my high school production of The Pajama Game.
Here we are. Yeah.
I've been told not to sing.
I've memorized my 3 lines, which is more than most people have.
Right.
But what would you say to a kid? Like, if you had to give some suggestions to a kid that wanted to pursue acting or the arts, even more broadly.
Right.
Or I'm an OBU.
So, to a kid in high school, I don't know, I'd say a couple of things. I have a lot of conflicted feelings on how many theater programs there are in general. I think it's there's a statistic that's been going around the theater industry for a while that at any given time 90% of people are unemployed in this industry. So it's like, and I don't, I'd have to see the metrics and see what that's actually based on, but there is a lot of competition in this industry. So one of the, not that I'm like trying to be down on getting into it, but I would just say like the people that are going to do it are going to make it happen. So in some ways there's a natural weeding out process because it's really hard. You don't, just because you have a degree in it does not guarantee you will work in this industry. So there's people will figure out a way to make it work if you're really going to be in it.
Right.
So I guess I would say, like, just to, both as a word of caution and a word of challenge and like encouragement, hopefully, but pragmatism is like, step up and make it happen. Like, no one is going to make you an actor. Like, yes, you need training and all of that, but no one is going to give you a career. You have to carve it out for yourself. Like, you are your own startup business, and no one is going to get out there and pound the pavement and get to auditions and do all the stuff you need to do more than you will. And like, hopefully, you find success and you find people who will cast you, and that helps it. It gets easier, but it's a hard hustle to start off. So, but in high school, it's like, if you love it, try it out in college. Like, get some. Make sure you're at a program that is reputable. I would say don't go to OBU for theater.
So do some research.
Do some research. Like, go to a major theater program.
All right.
Or like, make sure you'll. Make sure you'll have opportunity to learn and grow. But pedigree means a lot these days. So, try not to take on debt, but but like, that's a cut of, gets you ahead.
Interesting.
But that's the thing. Like, too many colleges offer theater programs, and way too many colleges offer graduate programs, that they're just making money off of you.
Oh.
Like they're not connected to professional theaters. They're not connected to a lot, and almost no one in Oklahoma except for OCU, which is I think is still connected to Lyric, but I'm not sure about that.
Okay.
But there's so few programs that will help you feed into a professional setting. So if you're going to go to a college program, see if it has some sort of either it's in a city where a major theater happens, or it's connected to an actual company itself. So, like there in Oklahoma City, OCU, I believe is connected to Lyric Theater, but I'm not sure. That's where like Kristen Chenoweth went.
Yeah.
Michael Barron is the artistic director of Lyric, and he actually was from D.C. before he went to Oklahoma City. I auditioned for him a few times, and then we're just sort of ships passing.
Oh, really?
Hey,
dang
have
it!
fun in my hometown. I'm in this town now. So.
What? All right, so we're gonna finish up here with the final 5 questions.
Oh, we got 5 questions,
and then we're gonna get some hummus.
Yes, and some parking validation,
and a beer, and some parking validation. All right, and I think you're gonna be perfect for these questions. What's your morning routine like?
Coffee. Well, it's changed recently because there's a baby.
There's a baby.
So the morning routine is stop the baby from crying. Feed the baby.
Yeah.
Drink coffee.
Got it. What's your biggest musical influence?
Woody Guthrie. Started me down a lot of the whole path as an artist to begin with.
Have you been to the new museum in Tulsa?
No, I haven't. I've heard about it.
But I haven't been either, but it's pretty cool.
Huge Woody Guthrie fan.
Favorite book?
Maybe The Hotel New Hampshire.
I don't know that one.
By John Irving. John Irving's one of my favorite writers. A Prayer for Owen Meany is also high up there. Or 100 Years of Solitude.
Okay.
But probably Hotel New Hampshire.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to check that out. What's your favorite spot in Oklahoma?
Favorite spot?
Some examples have been Lake Arcadia, Mount Scott, Wichita Mountains. I was talking with Representative Mickey Dollins, and he said his backyard because he's got an inflatable pool back there, and he just hangs out there.
Well, I will say, so my brother bought a house on the northwest side, and this is several years ago, and he texted me a picture, and it has this amazing bar. And he just texted me a picture of the bar.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, does it come with the rest of the house? He's like, yeah, but who cares? And so I will say, when I come visit, I love just sitting at my brother's bar because he loves to play bartender, and he will just make anyone a drink. And it's pretty fun to, he's got a nice setup. Almost 40 different bitters that you can try. It's a full, you can order any cocktail bar there. So
nice.
I love that. And then the last time I was there, I'm trying to remember the name of it. I think it was Powerhouse. It's near. It was just a really cool, tiny little bar there near the farmers market or something.
Oh yeah. Downtown. Center of downtown. Yeah, it's something like that. Powerhouse or. I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I've never been there though.
And I'd give a shout out to my good friend Tyler Woods, who runs Reduction Theater.
Okay.
And I've done a couple shows with them. I did Richard III with them, and then we did Oklahoma City Dead, which was this interactive zombie hunt that we did at the Civic Center, but it was produced by Reduction.
Oh, okay.
And they are awesome, so I love working with them and hope I get to work with them again.
Okay. Shout out.
Brother's Backyard and Reduction Theater.
Okay.
Or Brother's Bar.
What's your evening routine like?
It changes all the time because of my freelance schedule. Well, not just that, but freelance schedule. So if I'm in a show, the evening routine will look like dinner, early dinner, and performing a show at night. Maybe grab a drink with friends or the cast afterwards. If I'm not in a show, it'll look like making dinner at home or something with Lee, my wife, and Netflix and chill.
Yeah. Well, cool. Rex Daugherty, thank you so much for being on.
My pleasure.
Are we watching a movie?
No, I'm going to watch Ken Burns.
It's not really good.
You don't think Ken Burns is good?
I don't want to watch Ken Burns. You can't watch Ken Burns.
That was nice. That was nice. So I know it's been a couple weeks since the last episode, and that just happens, you know. Life happens, that sort of thing. And you got to pursue what you need to pursue in your daily life. And that's kind of what I did. But I do have the next episode. The next episode's interview is in the can. It just needs to be edited. And you'll want to tune in for that because it's just an excellent conversation with Bob Burke, Oklahoma City lawyer and Oklahoma historian Bob Burke, the renowned Bob Burke, world renowned. So it's going to be a really fantastic episode that I'll have up in a couple weeks. So thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Check us out on the various social platforms, or really, I say us, it's me, Riley Ross. I'm around. I don't do much on the social media, so whatever. So anyway, check it all out. And until next time, don't be a stranger.